Ready? All right, the boss man said we got to get started, folks, so let's get started. Okay, my name's Manuel Vela. If you've never seen me before, okay, if you've seen me before, I'm sorry. But I try to make this entertaining, try to make it fun. And I've only done, I think, 2,800 now presentations on flies. So I've done this for about 20 years. And there's nothing like I told Tani, and this might be one of the most amazing ladies I've ever met. I hired her over a year ago, part-time, and then she said, you know, as much as you're paying me, why don't you just hire me full-time? And from a marketing aspect, everything that we started doing is because of her ideas. This auction that's going on was her idea. And I want to just say thank you, Tani, for everything you've done. Because I know flies. I'm very good at chemistry, very good at math, and I'm good at external parasites and internal parasites, but I don't have her imagination. It's impossible. You can't do it all. Joe Ballard, he's one of our new guys. He's been with us 6 months or so. He's actually, I don't think he has a boundary. He lives in Comanche, Texas. Extremely, folks, if you got anything to do with dairies, he's got over 20 years experience. My biggest problem with Joe is I'm afraid somebody's going to hire him away from me. I really believe that. So compliment to Joe, and Joe, thank you for being here as well. Bill, thank you for everything with Duravet, and I'm assuming thank y'all, because without y'all, we don't happen. Can't happen. This auction couldn't happen. Her idea, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to bring, and it all started with Bill because of this right here. And I'll say it again tomorrow night when we do the auction. But when I first met Bill, because I've been on the feed side of this when I worked for feed manufacturer, and then I worked for Roach Vitamins, and that's all I've ever done is the feed side of all this industry, and I never worked with small over-the-counter stuff. And when I first met Bill, I said, well, tell me what we can do here to help to make this thing grow. And he says, well, to be honest, Manuel, last year your predecessors were probably the worst. He didn't waste no punches. He just hit me like that. And I said, great. That means all I got to do is go up. And that's also hard, because the more we try to go up, the more we try to get it even better. So we're really hoping for even next year to make things better. There's nothing romantic about a fly. Trust me. There is nothing romantic about a fly. And the reason I say that is because I never thought when I was 7 years old and my daddy ran a ranch down in South Texas, I never thought that at 7 years old when we'd have a catwalk, and he had a bunch of cattle and a bunch of bulls, and I saw this a lot on the bulls. And I was about 7 and I was in the way, and we'd have about 10 bulls lined up like that, and every one was mean. And I'd be doing this with these flies, catching them. And all these flies, I'd be getting little spots of blood in my hand. Well, I thought it was the blood from the fly. It wasn't the blood it was from the fly, but it was that fly was eating blood. And I think about it, I'm 57 years old, and I said, I'll be damned, it all started with a fly. Well, hell, Walt Disney started with a mouse, and he's a billionaire, and I'm still broke. And I'm like, it started with a fly, and I'm like, shit, I did something terribly wrong here. Terribly. But there's nothing romantic about a fly. And I heard that from somebody, and I just said, well, everybody, when we get out of college, because I remember being the youngest one out there in all these seminars and trade shows, I was the youngest guy 30-some odd years ago, right, Joe, in 1985. And I'm like, man, everybody wanted to get in the pharmaceutical industry and work for vaccine companies, do all this stuff that everybody thought was glamorous, right? Well, hell, nobody ever thought about a fly. Well, there's nothing romantic about a fly. And there really ain't. There really ain't. But it's probably the most neglected. And I think this industry is still going to continue to grow. And it will grow with not only my help, not only Tani's help, Joe's help, but it's going to grow with y'all's help as well. Because I think it's lots of opportunities. I started the feed-through business in about 2001. I took it away from ADM. I was a guy, and basically methoprene was a product. Company owned it. The molecule in the United States was called Wellmark. Wellmark hired me to basically get it off the ground from ADM. It went to its peak and went back down below $1 million. And I was hired to see if I could bring this product, the feed-through business, back to life. The long and short of it was he went from less to $1 million to, well, now it's probably over $100 million. But in the feed side of things, it's over $500 million. That's how much money this thing generated for the feed industries. My biggest mistake of all of this was I thought that the mineral would sell the fly control. In reality, the fly control sold the mineral. And that's hard to believe. How can something like fly control sell mineral? But it really did happen that way. And so when all these feed manufacturers were getting behind all this, it was just making mineral sales happen like this. And that's why it continues to grow. I left Central 13 years later. Wellmark turned into Central Life Science. I left them 13 years later and went on my own, independent, trying to find that rainbow. Well, starting businesses is hard. And I still have 2 of them, to be honest, but to turn around in small percentages of them. But then the Champion Animal Health found out about me because of some consultants, and they said, can you do this again? And I said, sure, because I wasn't through. And the scale of 1 to 10 with Central, I think I took it to about a 5. Well, my goal is to get this to about an 8. And I can't do that alone. I have to have y'all. Because we're short-staffed, we're lean, we're mean, we're trying to be the company of choice. And Champion, that's the headquarters in Brazil. They want to be a global company. And what I liked about this company is that they're not just going to limit me through the feed-through program. Because I believe for an integrated pest management system, you cannot be limited with just 1. 2 is always better. So if you have a feed-through with a pour-on, if you have a feed-through with a spray, if you have a feed-through with a premise, all of these different things, because I'm going to show you something in a minute, it'll make sense to y'all. So 1 avenue, 1 trap, 1 bait will never be enough. So Champion, the headquarters in Florida is smaller than that corner right here because of my boss. But right now he's in Brazil, and I'm actually impressed by this. They even got to where they bought their own TV station. And they promote fly control and other things pretty much daily. The company was started by the grandpa. My boss's father, or my big boss's, my boss's grandpa, his dad's father, the grandfather was one of the innovators of artificial insemination. So they've always had this pioneer, entrepreneur kind of approach to all of this, and they just keep on bringing more and more items. Every day, that grandson probably gives me another item to let's look at. Let's evaluate. Can we bring it back? Can we bring it back to life? And I like that. But they were the first ones to bring diflubenzuron on the market, because I worked a lot with methoprene. And I remember when diflubenzuron came into the market, and it took me, I'll be honest, it took me a few years to finally get my grasp on it. Because I wanted to make sure it's the right product. I wanted to make sure it was what it said it was. Just because you give me data, just because you show me everything, does not mean I'm going to buy it. I have to do it my own way. I have to study it. I have to evaluate it, because I want y'all to feel comfortable. When the end user gets it, no questions asked. Period. But the thing about flies is that, as I say, everybody thinks they're a nuisance, they're a pest, and all the above. But based on the latest data, we used to say $2 billion 3 years ago. The economic loss to flies now is about $4.2 billion. And that affects everyone, everyone. And if I took the common housewife into effect, I think that number would even go probably closer to 10 with a housefly, because a housefly is bad. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. I said that a while ago, the first to bring the diflubenzuron into the market. Champion, I enjoy it, because I think we got to really enjoy what we do, who we work for, what we believe in. And I really believe in Brazil. This company is the company of choice. It's one of the top 5 in the country of Brazil. Well, the goal, and that's the middle, that's my big boss right there on the right-hand side, the goal is to be one of the top 5 in the United States. So that's probably why, like with this auction or this deal that we started, or Tani started, to try to make things bigger or better, if they want to be the top 5, we got to do things like this. We got to strive to bring this to the table. We always got to be new. We got to be innovative. Got to have different products, and we got to make sure that the products perform. Because even in Brazil, they have tested it and tested it and tested it. But there's other things that are happening in Brazil as well. This is one of my favorite pictures of all. This is one of our customers in Brazil. And they ride mules over there. I couldn't ride a mule. Tawny's a quarter horse person. I'm a quarter horse person. Joe's even said he's had some Poco Bueno bloodline horses. I don't know if I could ride a mule, but look at that. In the United States, that breed now is probably black. Seriously. Because that was a bad day when the Hereford industry went black for me. Because I didn't think they would ever change that. But if you saw them ears, did you see the ears a while ago? That was a mule. And so I just find it entertaining. They don't rope from the horn. They rope right here. They're tied on right here on the side. So if it gets on the left side, somebody's going to fall. All right? Now, as simple as a fly. And I say as simple as a fly because everybody assumes that all these flies are the same. And my whole message for y'all right now is real simple. None of these flies are exactly the same. They're not the same how they eat, how they rest, where they poop, where they lay eggs, instar stages, nothing. And if you assume it's always one fly, everybody assumes it's this one, the nastiest one of all. That's the one when you're eating and you're outside in the barbecue and you let your dog lay its turd right over there. In my house, our dogs know to go way over there. Not because I shot them with this gun, but yeah. But regardless, this fly is very capable with this piece of her body, this piece of her body, this piece of her body, or them little bitty fibers on her legs, or even when she decides she's ready to defecate. It's nasty. And then because of this, you know, and that's eating some pudding, but we're going to take a video, Tawny, of a fly landing on a cake. But then it's going to cause a world panic, because as soon as she landed on your cake and you were out there with a party, that housefly came, landed right here, interesting, and then went block. Just threw up. You didn't pay attention, you just got your fork, cut that piece of cake, and ate it. Well, it was puke, it was acid, it was stuff that makes that cake dissolve real fast, because that's a sponge feeder. It eats like a sponge. That's how she eats. Look at it. She's sucking it up with the sponge. It's got to turn into liquid. So it can turn anything she pukes on pretty fast into a liquid phase. She can also transfer internal parasites to you that way. I don't eat that cake. You can. I'm not. I know too much about what she can transfer. I know too much what she can do. I don't even want to eat outside. They ask me in every restaurant, you want to eat outside? I saw the flies hitting the windows a while ago. And I'm like, no. I mean, why would I want to go out there? Number one, if I'm going to go out there and sweat, I'm going to work physically because I like that. But number two, I don't want to be chasing this damn fly because it's not as simple as what people think. And especially not her. But the first one's a horn fly, the second one's a stable fly, the third one's a face fly, and the last one is the house fly, the one everybody takes for granted. This fly will be a year-long program now, folks. This fly is turning into a winter fly, believe it or not. This fly can get down to about, stable flies, probably around 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and will survive. I'm finding larvae throughout the United States. This fly is changing evolution daily. And this fly will continue to grow. Last year I was invited to go to Costa Rica for that fly. The economic threshold for that fly is 5 per leg. In Costa Rica there was 3,000 per animal. Cattle were dying. Riots were happening. People were burning tires in town. I've seen this fly explode in Washington, in California, and in Florida. And it's learning to adapt in ways that if we don't control it today, it's going to be worse than anything we've ever seen. Because 3,000 flies here on our cattle industry can be bad. The whole skin will fall off animals. all the hair peels off. Yeah, I got more graphic pictures that you could imagine. And then the government got involved in Costa Rica and made Dole and Del Monte, who have raised the prices of pineapples, by the way, because they went from here on 30 cows to across the field to pineapples, and then came back. So they went this way and they turned around and did probably, I don't know, let's just take 1,000 flies. And when they came back, there was millions, because they have to eat blood. They don't eat pineapples. They lay their eggs in pineapples, but then they're going to come back for a blood meal. Cattle, horses, dogs, cats, people. Dogs, you see pictures of dogs got big old whoppy ears. Their ears just swell up. Same thing with cats. So this fly was going to continue to grow, and I hate to say it, we'll be selling just the fly year round before it's all said and done, because it's adapting, and it's adapting in a very, very bad way. Okay, let's go to the horn fly, because how much time do I got, Bill? I got to be quick. That's it? I ain't never done this in 28 minutes. Okay, the key to a horn fly. This fly is the one that just does like this. And if you did like this on the cattle, they fly up and fly down. They go up and down almost about that speed. The thing about identifying this fly, because both of them are blood feeders, they transfer lots of different things. I don't need more of this picture. But the thing you got to remember on this fly, economic threshold's about 200. In Texas, I see about 15 to 2,000. In Montana and Wyoming, I've seen numbers as 5,000. Texas, fly season's year round. Over there, season's shorter, population's more intense. This fly always eats upside down. 99% of its time, 99.99% of its time, it's upside down. Head's downward, wingtips up. 99%. Just like this. If you have this fly, you identify them by being upside down. Okay? Next thing. This fly is the one associated with mastitis. If you take a look, here's the back of a cow, there's the front. The back of the cow's got a tail. I guess, Tony, we ought to put a little head up here. Either the quarters or the udder. 1 in 4 cows pretty much got a blind quarter in the industry because of this fly. When we associated this fly years ago to mastitis or blind quarters, an udder that's not functional in 1 quarter is a blind quarter. That was associated with the fly. And it happened to the heifer when she was in puberty. It didn't happen to her when she was a cow, she was already showing signs of adding milk and fixing to lactate. It happened to her when she was a baby, when she was 13, 14 months old. That's when her quarter was lost. So that's why it's important to feed replacement heifers, as well as the way they transfer disease. We know we can get this population down to about 30 with diflubenzuron. That's the easy thing. We also know that they can transfer salmonella, mastitis, blind quarters. That's at a famous ranch in South Texas. That's a Gert cow. I won't tell you where it's at. But I can go to ranches and I'll see blind quarter, blind quarter, blind quarter, blind quarter, and I just tell the owners. It didn't happen to her here. It happened to her in puberty once it started. Once her hormones started happening, because I don't have a lot of time to go through this, but once her hormones started happening, that attracts more flies. I can also use this fly right there to tell you what cows are bred and not bred. Yes, because if she's right before she's in estrus, she's fixing getting standing heat, she'll get an influx of flies. Hormone production is up. Here come the flies to her. Once she's bred, I very seldom. You can go through the herd and see fly. Ever wondered about that? Lots of flies on cattle, then you got a few that don't have. Odds are the one that don't have could be bred. Then God's got a funny way about this as well. Cows are darn near death. Skinny cows, thin cows, body condition scores are 2s or 3s. For whatever reason, they're getting a whole influx of more flies. And I don't know why. Can't be a hormone response. We see a lot of filariate scars. If you ever wondered what this is underneath cattle, I've seen scars like this, about that big and about that wide on sides of cattle. And if you get that and you see these kind of scars, because you'll see cows just rub and rub and rub and rubbing, that's a dermal issue. And it's a filariate worm. They caught a plane ride on the female hornfly, not the male. Because the male is 99.99 host specific. He eats up there, he poops up there, he has sex up there. The female is the one that goes down. She's got about 5 minutes to lay her eggs. She comes back up to the nearest host she can find. And that's pretty much it. Within 1 or 2 days, depending on temperature, depending on moisture, then we get an adult fly. We'll go through that in a little bit. Remember one thing, if you see them on the cattle, 5% are on the cattle, the rest are in the manure. That's why the feed-through program works. We want to do it through the manure. 5% are on the cattle, folks. 95% are in the manure. Face flies. We don't have face flies in Texas. This fly likes cold weather. The thing about this thing is that this fly is probably another one of these neglected flies. Right now, everybody's promoting horn flies in pasture. We're promoting 3 flies. 3 flies. Horn fly, face fly, and stable fly. Horn flies lay its eggs 100% in manure. Face flies lay their eggs 100% in manure. You'll never find it in any kind of organic matter. Not a rotten piece of bread, bananas, apples, orchards, citrus farms, silage pits, never. This one here is always in pasture. Another thing about this fly, horn fly's economic threshold is 200 per animal. Face fly's economic threshold is 10. But this fly is different. How many of y'all ever seen pink eye in cattle? How many of y'all have seen runny eyes in cattle? And you wonder what's going on. Well, this fly has a mouthpiece like sandpaper. And this fly, as you wipe your eyes like this gentleman's doing there, as he wipes his eyes, he's got an enzyme in his eye. And that enzyme keeps mold and fungus and bacteria from happening in your eye. That's all of us. That's it. Because otherwise, with all the humidity we got right here, all the moisture, we would be getting all kind of growth in our eyes. It just don't happen in the morning when you wake up. It happens daily, okay? But this fly needs that enzyme, the female. She has to scratch the eyeball. So she'll fly like this, go to that eyeball, and start scratching, just like this. So then she blinks, she starts tearing. As she tears, she sucks up the enzyme from that tear duct. And because of that, her eggs are fertile. If she doesn't get that enzyme, her eggs are infertile. She has to have that enzyme. So when you go to a ranch, talk to a rancher, and you see these crying cattle, if you want to call them, crying, well then you know you got face flies, because her mouthpiece is like sandpaper. She needs the enzyme. The males are actually out there getting honey. That's a female laying eggs on a manure pile. Intact manure pile. It's a pasture fly. Okay? That's what differentiates this fly. Economic threshold, the enzymes, pink eye, we know, and then there's one more. A lady in Oregon last March took out 10 of these Thelathea eyeworms out of her eyeball. This also will turn into a CDC economic issue or an impact one way or another. That's surgically removing that worm, by the way. I love this fly because this fly lays parasital eggs inside your eyeballs like that. Not only in the cattle, the horses, dogs, cats, but also people. And again, I guess we could inject ourselves with Ivermectin. It might work, Bill, but I've never done it. So I've tasted it, but I've never done it. So again, this thing just continues to go, and more of these things are evolving to where we're getting more and more parasites, more and more things happening with something as simple as a fly. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, now recognizes this is an issue. And when Fifi gets it back home, I know that my dog is 14 years old, and Diane asked me the other day, she says, she's losing a hearing, and she says, can we get hearing aids? She didn't care if it cost $4,000. Well, I do care, because I need them too. But $4,000 for me, that ain't gonna happen. But if Kippy, our dog, gets this, I can promise you surgery's gonna happen, because she got more rank than I ever thought about. Okay, house flies, the nastiest one of all. All flies have what we call instar stages, 1, 2, 3. Larva. They go from egg, larva, 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 adult. Metamorphosis adult. Okay? Horn flies and face flies stay in that manure, and then they emerge out as an adult. The thing nasty about a housefly is they migrate. between the second and third instar stage. They're like snakes. The skin gets tight on them, they shed it. Skin gets tight, shed it, then they go to pupa. That can happen in 2 days. It can happen quick. If you don't believe me, take a trash can, get you an apple, smash it like that, put it in a trash can, leave it in your garage. 2 days later, you'll see larvae crawling out. Hundreds of them. Make a home, because they're really, really good. Because we know they transfer all kinds of bacterial diseases as well as viral diseases. We're probably talking anywhere from 65 to 100 diseases. Not only on how they puke, not only on how they poop, not only on what they carry with their body parts, but the one thing that bothers me more than anything in a dairy or feedlot or anybody is as soon as I open a lung or a trach or something like this and I got all this junk, macrophages, bacinoscells, all this residue from the immune system, and it's a healthy dead animal, right? But we wanted to know what it was. We cracked it open, then they turn around and the flies come by here by the billions, and then they take it to the healthy cattle. This one here, I'm getting more and more involved in studies with this animal, even situations like this in a feedlot. When I see this and I see cattle, flies coming to this, and they go to healthy cattle, transfer. The incidence of BRD, and I got a very good friend who's been at this for 30 years. Him and his group control about 6 million head of cattle. He said, Manuel, I got more vaccines, more antibiotics, better than anybody ever thought, and the incidence of BRD is worse now than it's ever been, and I've been at this 30 years. And I think it's as simple as a fly, Dick. Because it's the one thing nobody's looked at, and I'm going to take this fly in the feedlot scenario and tie it to Mannheimia and Matosida. I really believe this is the answer. And I know it is because I did take a feedlot one time, told them to crack the animals half a mile away. We cut medicine cost in half. So this fly, as simple as a fly, is something that nobody looks at. Now, if I'm running out of time, stable flies, by far going to outpass the other ones before long it's all said and done. We'll have riots over this fly because of something as simple as that. And you get cold days, warm days, cold days, warm days. We got organic matter there. It can be in that feedlot, dairy, it can be in a pasture. Then when I combine urine and poop, you made the perfect storm. Straw, hay, poop and urine, or organisms, protozoas, and all these microorganisms coming involved in this, and we just made the perfect environment for this creature right here. And this creature is bad. He doesn't eat upside down, but he's always going to be from about right here below on cattle. This one here, I was in Mexico last week. I had to go down there. They call it the dancing cow. And I found that entertaining. I said, good, we got a face fly, and now we got a dancing cow. The dancing cow, she's always doing this. Always. She's the one that when you turn around, you go to a dairy or feedlot, all the cattle on one side of the area. They got a whole pen of feed, but they're all right here bunched up. It's this fly. As many as 2 fly per animal can make cattle bunch up. Not 2 per leg, per animal. This fly hurts. This fly causes pain. This fly causes cattle to run. And this fly will even hurt us because it's coming. It started in in the 90s, it was worth about $6 billion. Now he's over 2, and it's going to continue. The thing about this fly is this fly doesn't bite you. This fly rips you. His teeth actually go like this. And once he goes in, he goes like this, and he pulls out, and he rips it. So then he flies around, or she does, and she goes back, and then they lick it, the blood. Then they go right over here and do the same thing. This fly will not stay on an animal for probably no more than 2 minutes. So if you think you got this fly, it's not like a horn fly. They'll stay there forever. This fly doesn't stay there long. It eats and leaves. Then it brings the family. It found a meal. It's kind of like welfare. It's going to keep on bringing more and more people. I shouldn't say that. Tony, where are you putting this video? All right? Okay, I run out of time. Bill makes me nervous when he's back there sometimes. Okay, we know it can transfer all kinds of things, and we're digging deeper in this. This fly is going to be bad, folks. And I call it the wintertime fly. It can reduce milk production. It can reduce weaning weights. It can do lots of different things. And there's a product called methoprene that's out there. It will never stop this fly. You can drop the box on this fly. You ain't going to kill him. This one's tough. Very tough. Methoprene will not work on a stable fly, period. Not going to go there because I'm running out of time. Painful. This was done where they stuck their arms and let them darn flies bite them, and these mosquitoes, flies, horn fly, stable fly, 200 times more painful than a mosquito. So I say it's like a wasp. But underneath the skin, if we peel that skin on them cattle, you also got a bruise. I think this is the #1 cause of lameness in dairy cattle. I really believe it, because they're always in a moist environment. Cattle are dancing. Hooves are soft because they're moist. How many of y'all got pedicures and toenails and all this, and they stick you in that bath stuff, right? Kind of gross if you think about it, but regardless. And then they file on your toenails and all this. They're softer, right? I mean, horses. I got one horse I put in water and make him stand there before I do anything with his hooves. I think we caused that problem with lameness in cattle because of this fly. Totally neglected. Again, as simple as a fly, but we neglected it. All right. There's always more than one thing. Some of these flies can lay 400, 500, 600 eggs at a time. Some go on different things. Horn flies will lay a couple hundred, face flies a couple hundred in intact manure. House flies, you ain't give them anything. Any kind of organic matter, they'll lay it. Any kind of organic matter. Remember, they migrate. And stable flies, they also like organic matter. But when you add some fecal material, you just made a pot of gold. That's the key with this right here. The other thing tricky about stable flies, and this is what I was showing Joe, you can go right here and find 25, 25, 25, 25. Housefly, I can go right here and find 1,000 larvae in a spot that big. I won't find stable flies that big numbers. I might find 40. House flies, I can find 1,000 in the right spot. And when you open that up, you just look at all these larvae crawling, it'll make you want to puke. Trust me. Okay, I'm running out of time, Bill. I know it. Don't tell me nothing. Okay, 2 flies turn into that number, folks. I don't know what that number is. I have no idea. I just know it's big. Okay? It's a bunch of zeros. How do we get it? Well, it's easy. It's a feed through. We end up in the fecal matter, where it goes through. We have the ad pack, which y'all are responsible for. In the future, we're going to get one for liquid feeds. In the future, we're getting one for horses. Things are coming. Keep an eye on this, because Tawny's going to announce something tomorrow. And these other things will be on this announcement tomorrow as well. So there's going to be some upside to all of this. So we end up in the organic matter, we end up in the manure, and we get it in the 2nd to 3rd instar stage. The animal, the creature, the larva ingest it. That's all it was. As it's traveling in where it's eating, the larva got to eat. Larvae have to eat. And remember this, eggs have to hatch within a few days. And she also deposits her eggs, all flies, on the best environment for survivability of larvae, her offspring. She won't lay her eggs where the offspring, she don't think so. Because you can go too wet, too dry, too wet, too dry. And I can go find them, don't find them, find them, don't find them, and it's all in a matter of length of this table. You got to look for the perfect storm. And that's what I call it, the perfect storm. It's a chitin inhibitor. It affects the exoskeleton. It is safe for just about anything unless you're an insect and you have an exoskeleton. So it's not a juvenile mimicking hormone, that's methoprene. This one affects the exoskeleton. They emerge out as an adult, but the wings are deformed. The exoskeleton never gets hard. They kind of turn into a blob and die. Like the Blob, I guess. That's an old movie, Tawny. We were talking about old movies last night, and she didn't understand none of this that Joe and I were talking about. This is the head, as that one was traveling. The big part of that larva is not the head, that's the tail. We know our product is, you don't have no animal handling, no residues, no resistance. It's approved for grass-fed cattle. We got all kinds of things involved in this. And then the one that we really talk about is them little things called dung beetles. Statistically, it didn't affect them. Did we kill some? The answer is yes. But it didn't make a statistical difference made on our data. Very little. You got to think of it from dose size. If a horn fly is the easiest to kill, horn fly, face fly, house fly, stable fly, and then way up there would be dung beetles, the dosage, the level. What's the matter? No, this ain't S-methoprene.
No, S-methoprene affects the dung beetle.
No, but S-methoprene won't affect face flies, stable flies, and house flies. So I did do a study with methoprene. I did increase the dosage, substantial. And anything we get approved in the EPA has to have a 90% effective rate. Methoprene, when I went to the next fly, was at 70. And didn't even bother going with the house fly and the stable fly because them are the toughest. Stable flies are really the ones. This one here, we got a few, not statistical. We ain't gonna wipe out your herd. Very safe. I know for a fact, and I just finished another study on this, you ain't gonna find it in the milk or the meat on any animal you take to harvest. No withdrawals. Okay? And we'll have some more data published on that real quick. Everybody understand feed through? You feed it, goes into manure, into that, because I don't have a lot of time. Temperature dependent. I'm afraid this is changing, folks. I think from here down, we're going to see flies till probably right here. I used to say it was 180 days. I'm thinking we're fixing to jump up to about 210. Especially if you get some cold weather, warm weather, cold weather. Snow! You think snow's going to stop this thing? Forget it. I've seen snow that deep. 2 days later, I found flies. It ain't going to happen. Things are evolving. Now, it's not romantic. Remember what I told y'all. It's not romantic, but the fly control will continue to grow. Some of these are going out, as we know. That was made yesterday. The antibiotics and how this thing's changing and that. I really believe we got a lot of people looking at our kind of technology and what we're working on just to prevent. And again, it wasn't until probably about 15 years when I started tying in diseases with these flies, nobody even took a look at this. Everybody just assumed it was just a pest. All right? And you don't need much. What I try to tell people is, if you take that little thing of sweet and low, and it's 1 gram, that does a lot of cattle, because this is milligrams. The average cow only needs 45 milligrams per head per day. But there's 1,000 in that little sugar thing, there's 1,000 milligrams. So what's 1,000 by 45? A bunch. It doesn't take much. These are the guys. We can get that to you later because we're running out of time. These are everybody's numbers. If anybody wants this, you can have this. I'd ask that if y'all go back to the company, if y'all want me to do a presentation for y'all, the long version, I will, to help y'all do this, help you sell product. That's who I am. We got business cards on the table. We're giving away 4 of these assault rifles for you attending this. Okay? Every one of y'all got a number. Now, Tani, being herself in marketing, she come up with another idea for a grand prize for coming here. What is it, Tani?